I mean, my God, it's been so long. But today, you know what? I want to talk about something. I really want to talk about something. I want to talk about this journey I've had in crypto. A little bit of a story. And we'll catch up afterwards, right? I've just realized I've been in crypto for 15 years, hilariously, right? But I haven't really been active. I mean, 15 years ago, I actually held a device with a bunch of Bitcoin in it that was actually gifted to me 15 years ago. Would you believe this? 2010. It was gifted to me. At that time, I used to be a skeptic, right? And hence why you got the title, What I've Learned So Far. I used to be a skeptic. I didn't believe in certain things. Um, of course, it took me many years before I was convinced. And about a decade ago, right, 10 years ago, 2015, I was convinced enough that I actually went full force. Absolutely bonkers, right? And since then, I've been a true believer, a true bull. And as I've grown with the industry, with the number of coins, I mean, I'm talking about the time when I've fully went into the market, we only had like 300 coins. And currently we have like, God knows, 30 million, maybe 40 million coins and counting, right? So there's a lot I've learned. One thing I've learned, and I'm going to go quick into this because we are going to catch up a little bit, right? One thing I've learned the most importantly is we can't be skeptics, all right? We cannot be skeptics because that's the one thing that will affect us the most. Now, what I mean by that, right? And, you know, by the way, guys, if you're here, feel free to leave something in the comments or chats or whatever. Smash the like button. Maybe other people could find it. But let's talk about this because, you know, I'm not one of those guys who comes on YouTube every single day trying to find something just to kind of feed nonsense to you guys. As you guys probably know, when I do my analysis and when I actually publish my analysis, when I tell you guys what I think the market may do or may not do, I'm pretty straight up about it. There's no ifs and buts about it, right? You know, just what's there is there. So when I give you a number, for example, or a target, I stick by it, right? And I've stuck by a target that I said, look, I'm looking at the 133K to 137K. That's my number. I haven't gone above that. Of course, I do have numbers above that, but I haven't. But anyway, let's get back to what I've learned so far. So one of the things that I will urge everybody is don't be a skeptic, right? There are coins out there. There are so many coins out there. You got to basically just kind of gamble, right? It's like a freaking lottery out there. You never know which one's going to pump and which one's going to dump, right? You never know. Absolutely never knows. Um, I see JC. Hi, nice to see you, JC. So anyway, you never know which one's going to pump, which one's not going to pump. I mean, years ago when I jumped in when there was only 300 coin, and I mean back in 2010 there was only one coin, right? There was only one coin, and I was a skeptic then. You know what I mean? And that was the most foolish thing I could ever do, right? Because I actually ended up chucking the device in the bin, right? And now over time, right, you know, like 2017 bull market, 2021 bull market, right? We saw the number of coins grow up, but I actually started identifying certain coins and I said, right, you know, these are blue chips because we had only a limited basket of coins, right? It was easier, even with 3,000-4,000 coins that we had, it was still limited, right? So we've picked up a whole bunch of coins, and of course, you know, we believed in them. We had conviction in them, and that was the game. But as we've grown, I've learned that actually we can't just hold on to old narratives, right? Because narratives will come and go, hypes will come and go, right? You know, the tulip bubble, right? People call it the tulip mania, right? Yes, this is exactly what happens with these fresh narratives. So it's not the cryptocurrency that's the tulip mania right now, but it's the narratives that we get. And I've learned that, okay, when a narrative comes, bet on it. Don't bet the farm, only bet what you can lose, right? Bet on it. If it wins, it wins. If it doesn't, assume loss, move on, right? So that's how I've been kind of moving with the market. Of course, I still believe, like when I became a true believer of Bitcoin, I still believe there is an opportunity and a time that it will go above $1 million a coin. There is like all the maths that we have, according to the Bitcoin white paper, tells us that is something that is 100% possible. Back in the days that we've had like, I don't know, 300, 400, 500, maybe thousands of versions of Bitcoin, like Bitcoin being forked. None of them were successful, right? because the majority always stuck by one, and that one has that opportunity to get to $1 million. All right. So what I've learned is, you know what? I'm not going to be chasing around everything, right? Because it just doesn't work. Just buy a Bitcoin, one or two if you can, right? Whatever Bitcoin amount you can, whatever you can afford, right? Doesn't even matter. Even if it's $10 worth today, if it becomes $1 million, that's $1,000 for you. But the point is you just buy Bitcoin and just stick with it. That's the only one that is not going to fail you. And of course, there are others. What I like to kind of the way I like to explain to people, I've explained it to KR and a few other people as well. I've explained it to them. I said, look, imagine Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's going to a certain level. When it gets to $1 million, nobody, no Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to be able to buy it, right? People who have bought it in the past, people who have bought it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they're the ones who are basically going to be able to, see the benefit, right? Because they bought it so cheap, right? People who are buying it now, well, for them to get to $1 million, that's a 10x from this price, right? It's $1 million, right? Yeah, we get there, right? We're going to get there, but we're going to get to the point where they's going to buy a Bitcoin for $1 million. You know what I mean? Not every average guy, and I'm an average guy, right? And I like to talk on behalf of average people. And I say, you know what? If Bitcoin has gone to that level, then there's another coin that can potentially do the same thing. And then there's another coin that could potentially do the same thing as the other coin. And what I mean by that, Ethereum has a potential, right? Because Ethereum, not identically, right? It's not identical, but it is following that same path. Pretty much the similar amount of time Bitcoin took to get to 10K, right? Ethereum's doing a similar kind of thing. It's not there yet. Well, it might get there, it might not. But do you know what? I'm talking about Ethereum from back in the days when 2017, it was about $8, $7, $8. It was $2 way before that, $7, $8. And then it went to like $70, $80. Do you know what I mean? So when you're looking at those numbers and when you're talking from that kind of experience, when you look at a $4,500 Ethereum, well, according to me, it's already done it. Equivalent to BTC, what BTC has done over the time, it's already done that. So then what happens? Who's the next Ethereum, right? So we've had the next BTC is Ethereum from my experience. That's what I've seen, right? So what happens now? Well, now all of a sudden, the next Ethereum could be BNB, as I've said many times on many videos, could be BNB, right? Or could be Solana. But however, that's not a fixed narrative because it could be any one of them. But we, of course, look at the ones that are being used the most. And I think Binance and Solana are good competitors to be the next Ethereum. What do I mean by that? It doesn't mean it's going to be Ethereum. It's going to be an Ethereum killer. No, it just means the price valuation has a potential to get to where Ethereum is today. Right? So again, BNB, people were buying them for $1, $2, 30 cents, 20 cents, right? So I never bought 20 cents, 30 cents, right? But the point is when you buy for $2, $3 and then all of a sudden they're like $1,000, you do the maths, right? So it has a potential to get there. That's what I've learned so far, right? So follow the narratives, right? But don't bet the farm on it, right? Don't gamble everything on it. See what happens, not a problem, but play wise. I used to be an absolute bull, and I used to be absolutely against all type of bearish actions. There was no bearish action for me. It's like, right, pump, I'm going to, sell, whatever. But I'm not going to short the market. This was my kind of a playbook. It was a moral obligation that I had that I will not short the market. Well, I can tell you this, right? After being in the game for so long, you've got to adapt because now you don't really know what to choose anymore. So you know what? Why not bet on the best horse, right? Whether it wins or loses, keep on betting on that one. Right, and that's what I've been doing now. So for me, over time I've changed my strategy from being a spot trader, becoming a normal leverage trader, right, and also kind of long in the market and shorting the market as well. You see what I mean? So I'm playing the game every single direction wherever it is, but I'm not dabbling too much into altcoins, right? Yes, I have limited number of altcoins that I've bought during the past dips that we've had, right? They've averaged out pretty well, to be honest, right? And they are moving forward, right? So that's how I see it. So this is, for me, this is my experience so far. Like, it's like, okay, do you know what? As we grow, we have to also adapt to the market, but we don't adapt to the market just because everyone else is aping into it. We don't want a portfolio with a freaking million coins in there. Do you know what I mean? It gets a bit stupid. We don't want to do that, but we want to pick on certain narratives. And narratives talking about that. a lot of people have seen some alt start to move, right? I can also see some alt start to move, right? And I feel that we are currently in an altcoin season. However, we are being prevented from having that altcoin season 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20x, the crazy insane gains on some of the coins, some of the blue chips, right? And blue chips, talking of blue chips, back in the days we used to say on the coin market cap, the top 100 coin would be your technical blue chips, like top 50, top 20, those are your blue chips. Well, now probably the top 200, because when you're looking at 40 million coins, right, your top 200, maybe top 500 is your blue chips, you know what I mean? So it's hard. It's really hard now being able to predict or being able to pick that right little gem. So hence why I say, only invest what you can afford to lose on the altcoins. That's it, right? Now, there's another thing I've learned over time, and I've talked about it many, many times on these videos as well, on the live streams as well. I've talked about it, right? I'm gonna read the comments in a bit, but there's another thing that I've talked about many times as well, right? And that is that, look, when the market moves, when the market's giving, right, buy, sell as much as possible, right? You don't want to be buying on the top of the market. So a lot of people, they just kind of ape into certain things, like, right, I'm going to miss the boat, like, FOMO, right, fear of missing out and whatnot, right? Kurinka says hi back to you as well. I will read the comments, so I will definitely say hi, no problem. And I can see you said you're a crypto loser. Nobody's a loser. Nobody's a loser. And if you listen to me on this particular part, you'll understand, right? We will talk about the chats. I'm going to hide the chats for a bit, but we will talk about this. And I hope this makes sense to you, right? One of the biggest problem a lot of people have in crypto, and I've seen this, I've experienced this, and I've got a whole bunch of friends who have done this. We have a dear friend of mine from school, my childhood friend. He's on our Discord. And also all the links are down somewhere in the description, right? So on Discord, he's there. He's bought a coin at the top of the market. 2017, just at the end of 2017, just before the Bitcoin crash, someone bought Bitcoin at, I think, $19,000 a coin. That was like the peak of the market. People have bought this, right? And then it crashed down to, I think, about $3,600. So you can imagine this man was devastated, right? Oh, I've just bought all of this, and he bought like 8 or 9 Bitcoin. Spent like over £100,000. Dollar wise, God knows, 120, 130, whatever it was then, right? But the point is he has experienced this, and we have seen this ourselves as well, where people just don't know when to stop, or people think that's it, this is about to go and I need to get in right now, right? You need absolute discipline and self-control during the market. Whenever we see a green candle, right, whenever we see a green candle, we want to be cautious. We want to take a step back and say, right, okay, hold on, now I've got to assess my situation. What is up and what is down, what is not, right? So okay, some of the coins haven't moved, no problem, I'm happy to leave them where they are. Or maybe I think I need to take them out, put them into something else, and let that move. You know what I mean? If something's moving, let that move, right? Because every single coin doesn't move very well. One of the things you got to understand, right, there are not many people, like 5, 6, 7% of the planet have dabbled in crypto, right? Or are involved in crypto. So you got to understand, the entire planet's not playing with crypto. We don't have infinite amount of money to go and buy every single coin and pump every single coin, right? So what happens more often than not is you have groups of people pumping a particular coin, right? Obviously they bought it cheap, they pump it, they hype the thing out of it, and then people, majority of the people, or I would say half of the people, make money and half people don't, because that's how it is. That's the harsh reality of how it works. Even a lottery, right? Everybody plays $1 worth or £1 worth of lottery, right? Whatever country you are in, you play one unit of your currency as a lottery, but there's no guarantee you're going to be the winner. And millions of people play that, and then the whatever money is raised, that is then distributed partially, not all of it, but part of that is then given to you as you're winning. But everybody's lost $1. So similar way in crypto, when a lot of people fall for these hypes and these groups go and pump and dump groups, right? That when they pump, they don't just pump one coin, they'll pump one and then move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's how it goes. And it's hard to predict which one's going to be the next one. But there is one thing we can do, is we can select a whole bunch of coins during a bull market, right? So whenever we have a bull market, we can start selecting particular coins. This is my experience, by the way. We can start selecting some coins and say, right, this coin has a good community behind it. This coin has a good community. And by the way, when I talk about communities, I'm specifically not talking about meme coins. Please understand, we're not talking about meme coin community, because there are meme coin communities out there, massive communities, bigger than some crypto projects out there, genuine crypto projects. We're avoiding those, right? But when we're talking about communities, we're talking about how many people are wallet holders, how many people are holding it, how much of this currency or crypto is in distribution. Those are the numbers we're looking at. So we pick those. We literally make a note of that coin, this coin, whatever coin it is. We make a list and we say, okay, I like this coin. This has this many holders, right? Then we observe, right? Then you observed, right, that what happens to this coin, like whenever the market flips bearish. Do the holders run away? Because if the holders are dumping and running away, it's not a good coin, right? People don't have faith in it. But if it becomes one of those coins where it dumps 90%, and believe me, I have a whole bunch of coins that have dumped 99%, right? Dumped. But what I saw was the community got even stronger. The wallets got even bigger. Like more people were actually buying this, to the point where it didn't take long for this thing, like during the bull market, to recover and get into profit regions as well. So you know what? Yeah, you put $1,000, it became $100, right? Or maybe $10 in some cases. You put $100 and all of a sudden you just made $20,000 or something stupid like this, something $10,000. So it does get crazy. What I'm trying to say here is I've seen numbers flip like completely the other direction, but that's because that currency has a strong community behind it. Forget the narrative, forget everything, forget all the hype, forget all the news, all the announcements they make. A lot of people look for those. Who cares what the announcement is? It doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter if the government's going to now put their CBDC on top of that. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Right? None of that is relevant to us, because the news is just part of the hype cycle, nothing more. Right? What we need to see is, are people holding on to this? Is this a strong competitor? Right? Is this going to be the next BTC, the next Ethereum? Because when I say that, by the way, take it with a pinch of salt. And of course, don't take it that seriously. What I'm trying to say here is, we're not saying it's going to be the next BTC or it's going to go to $100,000. We're not saying that. All we're saying is are the holders strong enough? Are the people holding this, right? And then, in the future, does it have a potential? If we can make that note, so here's what you need to understand. If we can make a note of those particular coins, and we basically just make a list, and we just wait for the bloodiest day of the market, right? And that's coming, by the way, it's coming very soon, and I don't just talk about stuff. I'm not saying I know everything, but I have a rough idea of how the market works. And I believe that basically the markets will dump sometime very soon, right? Maybe within the next 6 months. I'm not going to say anything sooner or later, but anything would happen right now. We are going to the position. But however, just to let you guys know, I know a lot of you guys might be afraid, Bitcoin is showing strong signs on the weekly for it to still move forward. Even, I think it was last week or the week before, just before the recovery, basically, one of our brothers, KR, he's here right now, he asked me a question. He said, bro, what do you think about the Bitcoin? He called me and he said, what do you think about Bitcoin? Currently it's looking a bit bearish. I said, actually, the chart, if you look at the chart as it is bearish. However, if you look at the pattern, it is actually very bullish. So even in a bloody day, we were bleeding out, right? We were going down, like, you know what I mean? It's like Bitcoin's, that's it, it's over. A lot of people assume that. But that's actually, the charts say that. However, if you look at the pattern on the chart, it is actually freaking bullish. And that's what happened, right? So it's just bullish happening. And that pattern gives us an opportunity for the next 6-7 weeks, maybe even more. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I look at it, right? So, it could be longer. We don't know. Listen, a lot of the time people look for predictions. What can you make a call? Can you say this? Can you say that? Can you analyze this? What's there to analyze? When you're looking at certain numbers, when you're hitting certain targets, when you said this is the particular number that we can project, right? There's nothing above that. Of course, there is, right? What I mean by that, when I'm talking about $1 million Bitcoin, I've just told you, I'm not being a hypocrite here, or how would I say this? I'm not contradicting myself by saying, oh, it can't go above 133K. 133K is the current target, right? But that target, a lot of people don't realize this. Now, you have to go and watch my videos in the past. I don't know which one it is, so I'm not going to link it here. This is a live stream, so I can't really sit there and link stuff. We were talking about 133K to 137K just after we went to $15,500. Does that make sense to you? We were talking about when we were sitting, I think we were like 6 or 7K or 8K, I can't remember, $8,000 Bitcoin, somewhere around there. We were talking about an $85,000 BTC back then. So those are the numbers that we set up based on the chart and the data that we have at that time. I know some people like to throw hypothetical numbers. Well, hold on. If you're going to just go and, with the fishing pole and just keep on throwing it in the pond, of course, some fish is going to come and bite on it, right? Your numbers are going to come and connect at some stage, right? Bitcoin, when people say, oh, it's going to go to 250K, it's going to go there. So does that make your prediction correct? I said it's going to go to $1 million. Does that make my prediction correct? No, it doesn't make anything. It doesn't mean anything. It can go to $10 million. It doesn't mean anything. It absolutely does not mean anything, right? The most important thing you got to understand is every season, we have a cycle, and that's what I've experienced so far. Each cycle, we can only reach a certain amount before we blow off, right? We can reach a certain height before we blow off. Now, if this season may be a bit different, so far, a lot of things have been happening different, but that's more to do with the institutions being involved. I'm talking about institutions, right? When we look at institutions, we shouldn't discard them. We should actually embrace them. We should actually understand what they're doing and actually say, do you know what? We can put faith in the coins that they are buying. Because even if the market dumps, they're still going to hold, right? Because they're not buying just for personal gains. They're not buying for anything. These are multi-millionaire people, billionaires, right? Buying crypto. Companies that are worth millions, if not billions, right? Buying crypto. Understand this, right? They don't care. There's companies out there selling shares so they can buy Bitcoins. Imagine this, right? So these companies are not messing about. They don't give a damn, right? They're not in it for the crypto and this and that. None of that business. It's another way of promoting their companies. But they are actually protecting us. What I mean by that, if the market suddenly sees a bit of a swing and it wants to go hard, so back in the days, Bitcoin would dump 70, 80%. That's normal. I mean, 50% Bitcoin dumping 50% was absolutely normal, right? I don't think we're going to see these kind of moves anymore. I would love to. I'm a freaking bull who would love to see a 80, 90% dump right now from here. I would love to see it. But I don't see that happening. Do you see what I mean? The reason is because of the institutions. So when we start looking at the coins that institutions are holding, like, for example, Stellar Lumens, XLM, Ethereum, and I'm not just throwing names out there. I'm talking about the ones institutions are actually interested in, Solana, XYZ, right? So when you start looking at those, you start realizing, hold on. If the institutions are going to be holding them, that means they're protected, right? Yes, they will suffer some sort of a dump, but they're not going to go to the ground. They're not going to vanish. That's a good thing. Right? So, as I said earlier on, you got to make notes. When you make notes on these particular coins and they start dumping hard, right? You basically pick them up at that time. And I'm not saying just, oh, buy the dip. No, that's stupid. Don't buy the dip. There's only one dip you buy. You wait for that. So what I'm saying is don't chase the money. If it's left you, leave it. Make a note. Wait for it. It will come back to you. So any coin you've seen, it will come back to you. Right? Except BTC. That's the only one I can say is not going to come back to you. So whatever you can do, right? And this is not a financial advice to none of you guys. I'm just saying this as a brother, right? $10 worth, $100 worth, $1,000 worth, whatever you can afford. Buy it and forget it. Buy it and forget it. And you thank me sometime in the future, right? You thank me, right? So just buy and forget. That's all you have to do, right? It's simple as that. So, you know what I mean? I mean, that's how I look at certain things, right? And yeah, I mean, for me, I've played this game long enough. I've chased it long enough, believe me, to the point where I'm so calm and so relaxed now. Yes, I've had my issues, and, part of the story is I've had situations, I've had enemies, I've had people chasing me, I've had people cheating me, I've been hacked, all sorts of other stuff, that negative stuff. So many different stuff have happened to me in crypto, and I've experienced them all. And you know what? I embrace them now. Back in the days, I used to look at them and I used to think like, okay, there's certain things were so hard, so difficult that you want to jump off a building. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of a thing. Like you want to go and kill yourself. But right now, I embrace that. I said, you know what? It didn't break me. I'm still here. It didn't break me. I'm still here. You know what I mean? And I'm now more experienced because of all the losses that I've had. And that means I'm a lot more stronger. I know exactly what needs to be done. So I've done what I needed to do. I've played a whole different game. And now I'm just relaxed. And actually, KR mentioned this the other day. He was having a chat with me and he's one of my job sites. And So he's like, you found your new passion. I was like, actually funny. Yeah, I do like stuff, so, I like building work, construction or whatever you want to call it. I like that, painting, decorating, all of that kind of stuff. I love that stuff. And now I found a nice little thing that helps me focus on other things than crypto. Why? And I'll explain to you. I've already bought what I needed to buy, or what I wanted to buy, actually, to be honest. I wouldn't say needed, I would say what I wanted to buy. A lot of those coins have already done a 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20x. There is a, like Solana, 20x, right? So they have already done those, right? BTC, for example, has already done a 5x. A lot of people are trying to look for a 1x right now or 2x right now. Oh, if we can get... Bro, we were talking about it. Basically, I said, sell your house, sell your wife, sell your car, sell whatever you got, live in a box if you have to, if it falls below $20,000. And that happened. Right? There's a video out there, and it happened. So if you didn't buy it then, well, who's to blame? If you had no faith in the brother, what can I do? I don't want nothing off you. I was telling everybody on YouTube, you know what I mean? I wasn't asking you guys to send me some money, no, none of that business. Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is. So it was a hard one, right? And I see a lot of people now, oh, we missed it, man. We should have talked to you. It doesn't matter. I don't need to know, right? What you do is up to you. What you decide is up to you. I'm not here trying to advise anyone, because I don't give you financial advice. I'm not here for none of that business. I'm just here giving you my original, just whatever's in my head, right? Whatever I can think, I'm just giving you that. And how you use it is up to you, right? And it's the same to all of you guys. I'm not here to give you financial advice. Of course, I've done consultancy before. I'm still doing some consultancy. Sorry, I'm still doing it, but a lot less than I used to before. And I've just found my new passion, and that pays my bills. Because I'm sure KR and a few other people who know me from back in 2020, they know I was literally living on crypto. My bills, everything was being paid by crypto. Do you know what I mean? That's how I was, until I had some situations, and I said, you know what, I got to stand back, and I got to now reevaluate my situation and see how things are going on. So when I reevaluated myself, I said, you know what, I'm being a fool. I'm being an absolute fool, because one, I've been hodling for too long, right? A lot of the stuff. Okay, I need to reshuffle, as I mentioned earlier, how I reshuffled. So I was like, okay, if it's not performing, I might want to dump it and just go into something else that is performing. So I did that. And then I said, you know what, I need to pick a number of coins and gamble, right? Whether it's a lottery, right? So for me, it's a lottery. So 10, 15, 20 coins. There was a time when I wanted 1,000 coins. Now I don't even look at 1,000 coins. I'm like, you know what, 10, 15, 20, maybe, okay, 50 coins. That's it. I don't want any more than that. But always one of those would be Bitcoin, one of those would be Ethereum, one of those would be Solana, one of those would be BNB. Those are the 4 coins that would always stay there. And of course, XRP is part of that game as well. So those 5 coins will always stay part of that portfolio, right? But I want to see it go, as high as it goes. And those are the portfolios that I don't intend to sell. Maybe a dollar cost average in, but I'm not going to wait for the dips, none of that business, and if it goes, to $20,000, $30,000, which I'm praying, right, with my heart, believe me. Edits and content. Hi, mate. Nice to see you, bro. Yes, I said hi. I'm saying hi as well. But anyway, so that's how I look at it, basically. That, there are times when we got to start thinking about what coins we can have faith in and hold on to, and what coins we might just pump and dump like everybody else, follow the narrative. But remember, those narratives don't stay forever. So if someone says this coin is going to the moon, just take it with a pinch of salt. If someone says this is the one the banks are going to be using, take it with a pinch of salt. If someone says this is the new thing, this is the new AI thing, take it with a pinch of salt. Because once the narrative comes on, it gets flooded. Because it's so easy now. There are so many tools out there, right? It makes it so easy for people to just go out there and just make a million copies, a million versions of that whole thing. And then you don't know what you're doing. And that's where the problem is. We could have had a really good system where we had a particular narrative and maybe 2, 3 coins for that narrative, and we find one winner. And that would have been perfect, right? And we could have played every single narrative. And by now, all of us would have been, we would have easily had 1,000, 10,000 coins. It doesn't matter. We could easily have that. We could have 1,000,000 coins and still hold 10,000 coins. It's not a problem, because each narrative would be one thing. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that from what I've learned so far. I mean, 2017, one of the biggest narratives was like similar like RWA now, They were doing medical coins and this and that, and a lot of money was raised for that. The only one I can remember that actually did succeed and is actually functioning right now is HNT, Helium token. They actually have a proper full network right now, and I think they partnered with, if I'm correct, they partnered with Elon Musk's whatever Skylink or whatever it's called. I think, yeah. So yeah, I think the Skylink or something, whatever it's called, right? His internet. I think that's been they're using that to provide internet to remote places, like phone services to remote places. So that's a coin project that actually worked. So you know what I mean? And they do have their own infrastructure, as I said, hardware and software as well. So that's one thing to look at. But yeah, I mean, guys, it's one of those kind of a game that as we grow, we must mature and we must adapt and focus on few coins. That's all I'm going to say, right? As I said, this is not financial advice. You do whatever you want. If you want to go and buy 1,000,000 coins, up to you, right? But I believe that I don't have to focus too much on anything. Just have a strategy, whether I'm dollar cost averaging per week, per month, every 6 months, it doesn't matter what it is, or there's a certain amount that I've put in. But I've got a limited number of coins that I'm doing that with. Hence why I don't have to look at the charts. I don't have to worry about the charts. The only time I'm going to start worrying about the chart is if we hit the 130K. I've got a alarm set up, right, or alert set up. As soon as we hit the 130K, I'm going to start looking at the chart again, because that's when I need to observe the chart and say, right, is it going to flip bearish? But if my stochastic RSI, MACD, RSI, all of those are positive, then we could expect it to move further, maybe 100, 140K, 150K, 160K, maybe even 200K. Because as I said many times before as well, what you have to look at is the higher we get, the percentage is a lot more, right? So when we were at 10K, for example, when we talked about a 1% move, it was only $100. But 100K, when we're looking at a 1% move, that's $1,000. Do you see what I mean? So when we get to 120K, the percentage will actually reflect a higher number for us. The output will be much higher. So, if we do make a 10% move from 130K, that's a 13K move. You can see how fast we get to 150K. It doesn't take long. So 137K, sorry, to 150K. It doesn't take long. It's only a 10% move. Boom, we're there. Another 10%, and that's another 15K. That's 165K. So the numbers will compound and it will be a lot bigger very, very soon. But ultimately, all I'm going to say, look, I do have a whole bunch of alts and I do want BTC to stop right now. Right? Not dump, but just take a breather, right? Take a break, so the alts can start moving. And I'm going to advise everybody, this one, brotherly advice, not a financial advice. If you have made some profits, please focus on getting your initial investment out, because a lot of people during bull markets, especially, they make a lot of money. They see a lot of money. But the one thing they miss out is taking their initials out, because while they're holding for dear life and they're saying, right, we're going to get there, we're going to get to the moon. It's okay, right? We're doing all of that. But they don't realize the market will bleed. What goes up will come down, right? The higher they go, the harder they fall, right? So they will fall. And when they do, and a lot of the people end up being stuck with their initial, because their initial's now 50% down. Don't do that. Don't be that person, right? Desi, my brother. I see you, my brother. Nice to see you, man. All's good, my brother. All's good. So that's what I'm saying, basically. So they will fall hard. And if they do, you get impacted. So take your initials out, right? Take your initials out and see what happens. Like for me, one of the things I was going to say, right? So I've gone through phases where I've gone up, I've gone down, all sorts of stuff and different strategy in trading. And so far, everything's been okay, right? I've had my negatives, but other than that, everything else has been okay. But I've got to the stage now where I don't even have to look at the charts. I don't have to look at the apps or anything like that. I don't have to focus on anything. In fact, I don't have, other than TradingView and Binance, I don't have anything else on my phone. Because I've changed my phone recently. I don't have anything else. I don't need anything else. I don't carry my laptop with me. None of that. Why? Because I don't want to. Why am I going to consume BS all day long when I have a target? I've got a strategy. I've got discipline. I've got a strategy. I know where I need to exit, where I need to enter. I know this. Let it come to that number, right? As I said, Bitcoin's going to $1 million. So if you have the patience, right, wait until $1 million. Put an alert. Alert me when it gets to $1 million. How hard is that? So that's how I'm playing the game. So in between that, obviously now I've gone to the stage where I'm like, you know what, I want to go and pursue some of my passion, some of my other stuff that I like, and see where things go from there. So other than that, I know it's been a very fast and long one. I wasn't supposed to be talking for the last 35 minutes, but I did talk about 35 minutes now. What I will do is I will have a look at all the messages and see what's going on. So let's see. KR says, bro, you've lost a lot of weight. No, I've been actually doing some dieting, so I haven't really lost weight. It's probably the camera or probably the lighting. But yeah, I work hard. Let's put it this way. I work hard, man. So let's go back to Karinka, who said, I'm a crypto loser. Let me explain this to you. Nobody's a loser. Strategies are important. If you don't fall for a hype, if you don't fall into the trap, you are in control, right? And you have a strategy and you're in absolute control. You say, you know what? I'm going to put $10 down the drain. You're in control. You say, I'm going to put $10 and it made me 20. I'm going to take $10 out. You're in control. But the only time you lose control is when you start listening to other people. Don't listen to other people. Don't listen to other narratives. Don't listen to these hype stuff. Don't listen to these groups. That's what I'm going to say. These are the don'ts. You don't do any of those. You have to be in control, right? I mean, of course, you're going to watch videos, listen to podcasts or whatever, listen to these influencers and whatnot. It's fine, right? But don't take that for it to be an absolute, because remember, they're doing it for personal gains. I don't do YouTube that often because YouTube, I don't look at YouTube. I've never have looked at YouTube as something to pay my bills. It's not my whole game. I've never looked at that. Yeah, I could do other stuff on YouTube. There are so many different things I could do that if I have time, right? I could definitely do and monetize YouTube to the point where I will genuinely make money out of YouTube. I know exactly how to do it. Right, I've taught other people how to do it, and they're making, good money. Well, enough money, more than what they would in a normal job right now. So it's not something I don't know how to do, but that wasn't my intention, never my intention for this channel, especially. Hence why I don't bother. It's not my thing. But a lot of the influencers with 100,000, 200,000, 400,000, 500,000, million subscribers, they rely on this. This is their income. This is their bread and butter. So do you blame them, right? So I don't blame them because that's their bread and butter. But I think you also need to understand this and say, you know what? That means that's their bread and butter. That's their business. That's what they will do. Maybe I should take it with a pinch of salt and not believe in all of that lack of freaking religion, right? Do you know what I mean? You don't, because then you become part of a cult, right? If you follow a particular channel in a particular way and you say, right, this is it, whatever this guy says is true. And even me, never do that. Please don't, right? Don't become somebody who's going to start following a cult. No, that's the worst thing. Don't do that, right? You have to be in control, absolute control, right? Every push, every button, every number, everything you want to do, that's you. You need to know how much money you want to make. You need to know how much money you want to lose, right? You need to know what coin you want to buy. Those are rules that you have to maintain yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. That's what you need to do. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm not sure what Southwest mean. Watch out for the toads. Buy Bitcoin. Okay, toads, you mean Pepe. Pepe, I like Pepe. I got Pepe. So let's see what happened. Koronika says, can you tell us 2 or 3 projects to bet our lives on? Well, for me, no financial advice. As I said earlier on as well, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Binance. Those are the ones, XRP. Those are the ones. Those 5 you can bet, right? Because they have a very strong community, very strong narrative behind them. And what you'll find is a lot of institutions are backing them up. So that is a lot better for us because that means the more institutions are involved in these things, they're going to be more stabilized. So that's how I look at it. All right. Jaffa says, my man is my man. Nice to see you, brother. Southwest says, you need to have use cases for anything to succeed. Crypto is overrun with much nonsense. In the next 10 years, only the top 5 would still be around. Exactly. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Hence why my list is very narrow now, whereas when I went fully into the coins, right? When I fully went into crypto, there was only 300 crypto. And then a couple of years later, we had like 3,000 coins, right? And even then it was fine because there were 3,000 narratives, right? Actually, not. Maybe there was about I don't know, about 1,000 narratives, but there was a lot of competition, and which was fine because you say, okay, right, there's one narrative, there are 10 different coins, who's going to succeed? So it was fine, right? Because the one that succeeds is the one that you want to bet on, right? The most, and then the others you're testing the waters and seeing, right, who does what. So you'll always have one winner. So that's how it was. But nowadays, the narratives are just absolute garbage. There is no narrative. I don't see any narrative, right? And especially with the global situation going on with the governments and the digital currency being pushed forward, right? There isn't going to be a narrative. What's the narrative? There's only going to be one narrative: stay decentralized. Do you know what I mean? Stay decentralized. That's the only one I'm going to see. So let's see what happens, right? So Edit, I talked to you already. Anonymous says, you're a nigger. Am I? I don't know. I don't know. Am I? Yeah, I don't see a reason why not. You know what I mean? You can call me whatever you want. I am whatever I am. You know, everyone's a brother here. That's all I'm going to say. Wait for it, says oversaturation. You're right. 90% is garbage. 95%. I would say 99% is garbage right now with the millions and millions of coins we have. And it's a sad reality that we are living in right now. You know, as I said, it's so easy. We've got so many, like before when you had to work on, say for example, you wanted to fork Bitcoin, right? There are multiple actions you had to take in order for you to do it. And a lot of people have taken those, haven't succeeded. When it was Ethereum, for example, you had to learn how to do Solidity and whatnot and build projects based on that. So people were actually learning the language to actually build on Ethereum, which is fine. And then when people understood that we don't really need to do that, we make little softwares and little widgets and whatnot, right? Now all of a sudden people just literally press a few buttons and do it. Solana is a very, very complicated. Even the founder himself says Solana language is absolute garbage. It's a very complex language. However, look what people are doing with Solana right now, because there are apps out there where people can just press a couple of buttons, pay a little, dust of Solana, $20, $30 of Solana, boom, have a coin. So there are creators out there who are willing to lose $10, $20, $30, right? Because it's nothing, right? They're willing to learn that because the potential is they can make thousands of dollars. And there are people out there in some, I'm not going to mention where, but there is a documentary out there. But there are people out there in some very kind of deprived countries. That's what I'm going to say, deprived countries, who can't afford to, there are no jobs, there are nothing out there. But they figured out, they said, hold on, we can just download one of these softwares, right? And we can just create these things over and over again. And if we can make $1,000, no joke, they actually only target to make $1,000. They're like, if we can make $1,000, we're good. And that's what they're doing. They're just rinsing and repeating. So for them, $1,000 is a lot of money because their monthly income, average income there is like $200-300. So you can imagine, right? So there are people out there. There's a few countries out there where there are communities who are doing this, collaboratively, right? But they're doing this to earn a little bit of living, So 99%, I would say, is oversaturated. It's just got complete garbage right now. A lot of the narratives don't make any sense, right? Even when I was talking about the medical narrative that we had, just didn't make any sense, right? It didn't make any sense. The one narrative that does make sense to me is digital wills and like digital documentation. That has always stuck with me. I like that narrative, but I haven't really seen any good project out there doing it. There was one or two projects who are, even now, they're still active. I can't remember the name. I think it was Avanti or something, I can't remember. But anyway, they were buying and selling properties on the blockchain. And that's a good narrative. I think that's a brilliant narrative. You have your ownership stamped on a blockchain. Only you can access that, right? You have the passphrase for that document. So no one can nick it. No one can come and claim it. I like that. And I think that's something we should adopt, right? So your ownership is yours. Government can't come and say, nobody can come and say, oh, this is yours, right? Unless they want to seize it illegally. That's a different story, right? Any seizure is illegal anyway, in my opinion, at least. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I look at it, right? That's personally how I look at it. And yeah, I mean, if we can get to that stage, where maybe, and this is what I'm hoping for as well. Regulation is something I'm not a big fan of. However, I think we need some regulation to get rid of 99% of the garbage that we have there. We don't need them, right? We absolutely do not need them. competition's good, but if it doesn't stick, it's not good. Like when we had the meme coin, we had Bonk as a narrative, fine, and they have done a few bits and bobs. Bonk's been very active. They've done a whole bunch of stuff. Pepe, not really a narrative, but it was there, hyped. Everyone made money. Doge, I mean, Doge is the grandfather of all meme coins, right? Done very well, right? But it's one of those that pumps and dumps. Do you know what I mean? So wait for it. Says what's your options on the AI narrative? Some are saying it's a bubble forming. It is a bubble, unfortunately, and as I mentioned, like the tulip bubble, there is a bubble. There are one or two proper genuine AI projects out there, right? For sure, 100%, the genuine AI projects out there. And there's a whole bunch of AI projects even before the AI narrative started, because AI just became a narrative. But before that, there were actual projects out there that were doing a whole bunch of AI stuff, right? But all of a sudden, ChatGPT comes out, 1 million downloads, and all of a sudden now it's all over the news. So all of a sudden, everything is now AI. It's just everywhere you go, it's just BS AI, right? And that kind of kills the whole thing. And the reason, and people are now betting on anything that they looks good or reads good. You know what I mean? They have a white paper, they read the white paper. Oh, this is good. Has a bunch of wallets out there, and there's a lot of fake wallets out there as well. There are projects out there with millions of wallets with dust in them, but they're actually just fake wallets, just to kind of give the thing. But as I said, the narrative itself, it's a new thing for the last year or two, I would say. Almost 2 years now this has been going on, but actually we've had projects way before that doing the same thing, but it's the sad reality of what it is. And it's just how ChatGPT blew up. That's all it was. But saying that, there are other AI better than ChatGPT anyway. So a lot of people don't see that, and that's the sad reality. But the truth is, you need competition. If ChatGPT was the only thing out there, we have a problem. But if we have competition, then we have a solution, because that tells us who's going to be better, and they are going to compete against themselves to be better than the rest of them. You know what I mean? So everyone's going to try to be better, and that gives us opportunities, right? That's how I look at it anyway. So yeah, I mean, AI in crypto is oversaturated, is absolute bubble in my opinion, and it could be the reason why we end up basically dumping everything. We don't know. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the governments are using AI for sure. They're using a lot of AI right now. I mean, right now, this video in the UK, I'm not even joking, this video in the UK is being analyzed by an AI. My government is analyzing this video, right? Which could be used against me. So anything I say here, right, if they want to pick and choose, could be tax, could be money, could be anything, right? Legal, illegal, whatever, they are going to try and use that against me. So there's an AI. We have a government AI who's analyzing our social media right now. It's being used. But that AI, is it got anything to do with crypto? No. That's the reality we need to understand. That's where we need to take a step back and say, oh, hold on. Everybody's doing AI, but what is that AI actually being used for? Who's actually using it, right? And what purpose does it give to us? So that's the narrative. However, there's a hype. It's going to make me money. I don't see a problem with that. You see what I mean? So it's not a contradiction. I don't see a problem with that. But when I look at the narrative, I'm like, that's BS. Who's going to use it? What are you going to use it for? How long are you going to use it for? It's going to die off. You're going to compete with ChatGPT. I mean, if ChatGPT decides to launch an AI coin, I'm on it. You see what I mean, right? I'm on it. But if ChatGPT is not going to launch a coin, why would I bet on anything else? Only reason I would bet is for a hype, right? If it's going to make me a quick amount of money, I can take my initials out and a little bit of profit, 10%, 20%, 30%, maybe 1x, 2x, whatever. I'm okay. I don't see a problem with that. But I will not bet the farm on it. That's all I'm going to say. Kurika says, sorry, I'm probably butchering your name. Karinka, I think it's Karinka anyway. Which coins, tokens, or memes coins do you think we should invest? I can't specifically tell you which ones. I've only told you about the top 5 that I think have enough institutional backing, and there's plenty more, by the way, that have enough institutional backing and have been in the, have the highest number of holders as well. Hence why those are the names I'm happy to talk about. But when you talk about meme coins and it's not, yes, I can only say what I'm holding. That's about it. I hold a bit of Pepe, I hold a bit of Bonk, I hold a bit of Doge. What's the other one? There was another one I hold a bit of, right? AI16Z, I hold a bit of that. But yeah, I just hold them, right? But they haven't really performed. In fact, they've dumped, right? Are they going to go to the moon? I don't know, right? I'm not a big fan of meme coins. I'll dabble into it every now and then. If it makes me a bit of money, I take my initials out and leave the rest, right? If it goes, it goes. And that's exactly how I've ended up with some of those coins as well, right? When it pumped, made a bit of money, took my initial out, left the rest. I said, I don't care what happens. Because that's a bubble that's going to pop very soon, because there's going to be a whole new narrative soon. I mean, we've had all of these. Someone creative enough is going to come up with a new one, and then that's going to be the new thing. So just wait for it. You'd see over the experience that you'll have, the longer you're in it, right? Just watch and observe, and you'll be kind of surprised, and also you'll find it really hilarious as well how something becomes a narrative all of a sudden. We've had the dog, right? Doge. We had Shiba. Remember Shiba Inu? We've had Shiba, so that became a thing. A lot of people ended up buying Shiba Inu as a pet, the actual dog as pets. Can you imagine that narrative? How far it went? It wasn't just crypto, it became a real thing. People started investing and buying those things, and the price of those dogs went rocket high. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. That's what you got to understand. I mean, there was Stefan was one of those coins that was well hyped, well marketed. A lot of money was invested, and there was a lot of companies like Nike, and I forgot a few other, Adidas as well. They were selling trainers out of this. They were happy. I'm sure they invested in it, but you know what I mean? So that's how it is. So I wouldn't publicly talk about meme coins and this and that. I wouldn't even recommend it. Only invest what you can afford to lose when you're doing in those things. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Binance, and XRP, they shouldn't fail you. However, if the market turns, expect them to go 40, 50, 60, 70%, which is historically has happened. Even 90%. We've even had a 95% dump. So historically, we've had severe dumps. Be prepared for that. Now, of course, when you're trading, or even when you're doing a spot market, you should also use a stop loss. I talk about it like a freaking broken record. You should always have a stop loss or some sort of a protection there, or at least a strategy. Okay, if the market turns, what am I going to do? Alerts, a very simple thing, doesn't cost you a penny. You can go onto your exchanges and say, if the price falls 5%, alert me. If the price goes up 5%, alert me. And you can use that for any percentage. You can say, alert me when it's 20%, if you're confident that this coin is only going up. If you think it might go down, we'll say, alert me as soon as it moves 5%. It's easy. You don't even need to own the coin. You can just get one of those apps like CoinList or whatever. Just download. I'm talking about an old, I'm not sure what the new ones are. A Coin Market Cap does it as well. So you can have a watch list of coins that you want to pick or you want to make a note of, and you want to see how it performs. Get alerted. It's so simple. Oh, Karinka says you can say Mohammed. Oh, perfect. That's much easier for me, Mohammed. Thank you. Nice. By the way, I'm also a Mohammed, right? So one Mohammed to another. Nice to meet you. Salam, my brother. Do I think BNB can reach 2K or more? I've always said when BNB was around $2, I've told people, I said, BNB is the new Ethereum. Until Solana came out, then I said, you know what? Solana has a good chance to become the new Ethereum. And BNB and Solana have always been a competitor in my eyes. Regardless they are or not, it's a whole different story. But in my eyes, they've always been a competitor that can reach the similar price valuation. So not by the number of holders or the billions of dollars of market cap, none of that. But they could reach the similar kind of individual coin valuation as Ethereum in the future. And that's what I've always said when it was $2, right? I was talking about Solana when it was like $1. Solana was $1 when I was first talking about it. I mean, so, and I was saying, look, it could go to $1,000. And so I've held on to that. So even now, it could potentially go to $1,000. Of course, it got affected hugely because of the what was it, FTX, the FTX scandal that we had, right? With what's his name, something Freeman, Sam Bankman-Fried. So because of all of that situation, Solana suffered a lot, right? But it recovered very well because, hey, we're kind of back to where it was already. Its original all-time high, we're kind of back to there. I think it was 260. So we're not far off. I think we even touched it, right? So we could potentially still get to 1K, right? But of course, Ethereum has pushed fast. Ethereum, sorry, not Ethereum, BNB has pushed further, and it's actually still moving. It's currently at $1,100, if not a little bit more, I believe. I can't tell you the right numbers right now because my chart on the app is not working that well because I'm not sure why. But anyway, so that could potentially be the next Ethereum. That means that 2K is a number we can easily reach, possibly even the 3, 4, 5K mark in the future. But again, if you are looking at these coins, the only advice I can give to you as a brother, not financial advice at all, keep a note of all of this. Because when the bull market is over, and it's going to happen suddenly, when the bull market's over, potentially these coins can dump 40, 50, 60, 70%, right? If they do dump 40, 50, 60, 70%, like if, for example, if they dump 50%, that's a guaranteed bear market. So if any coin goes to its 50% valuation, that's a guaranteed bear market. That's when you can start dollar cost averaging in, right? Maybe it goes down another 10% or whatever, but that's the best opportunity to start buying, right? That's when you buy, hold, patient, relax, and then you watch how the magic happens and the numbers grow. It will probably take you 6 months, maybe 18 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, right? But you'll see the numbers move, right? That's the most important thing. That's what you got to look at. So yeah, I mean, I think BNB has a potential. Solana has a potential. I've also, I think, for example, XRP, I've said XRP for me, the first target is $5. And then the next target is about $10. And that's based on the number of coins and number of holders. So again, maths are slightly different for each coin. Depends on how many coins there are in circulation and how many holders there are. That also matters as well. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it anyway. Muhammad Javed says, please could you tell me about BNB? How much, what do you want to know about BNB? BNB is a coin created by Binance originally. It was actually created to launch Binance, to fund Binance. So they launched it back in 2017. I think they sold it for like, I think it was originally it was like 15 cents or something per coin. They sold it, and I forgot how many coins they sold so long ago, but they sold XYZ and they raised around 12 or 13 million dollars, if I remember correctly. They raised from the first initial sale, and then the coin just kept on pumping, right? And yeah, I mean, they launched Binance out of that, and that's how Binance was established, to the point where the amount of coins CZ was holding eventually made him a billionaire. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't Binance that made him a billionaire. He became a billionaire from the number of coins he held, right? So that's how he did that. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. Wait for it, says Salam, brother. How bad you think strategy and all three treasury company will get rugged in the next bear market? All these treasury companies, how bad you think strategy and all these treasury company will get rugged in the next bear market? Which treasury? You got to talk to me about the treasury, bro. Because I'm a bit confused, I'm a bit lost. Strategy is quite simple. Strategies, you just make sure you buy one dip, not all the dips. Buy when it's the bloodiest, when everybody's crying, when everybody's running the opposite way, when nobody wants to hear about crypto, when you go and say, oh yeah, I like crypto, or I'm going to talk about it, and they say, get away, go away, I've lost all my money. That's when you're interested. When your friend, your neighbor, everybody says, I don't want to hear about crypto, bro, I've lost so much money. That's when you buy. That's the day, immediately, as soon as he says that, you go and buy. When someone says they've lost money, you buy, right? So you got to have a different psychology. Market's bloody, for you it's green. The market's green, you panic because you never know what's going to dump, right? That's how I look at it, right? But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know what kind of treasury you're talking about. There are plenty of treasuries out there. Of course, multiple cryptocurrency projects, and I'm talking about hundreds of them. A lot of the blue chips, they actually have a treasury as well, and normally they use the treasury to pay for their expenses and development costs and whatnot. And slowly gets dumped to the market, usually it doesn't impact the price of the crypto as much in a bull market. But in a bear market it can. And of course, in a bull market, it has impacted before. For example, I think it was 2017 or 2018, I can't remember, when XRP, they decided to sell off a whole bunch of coins. Like, I think it was like $1 billion worth or something, or $4 billion. I can't remember what it was, but that kind of impacted the market because it was such a large sell-off. There was panic, you know. And sadly, Mohammed Dazi, you are explaining so clearly and nicely. I appreciate that too, my brother. Thank you for your appreciation. I do appreciate that. I do try my best. But as I said, look, I mean, you can see the title. I've been in the game too long. You know, to the point where now I'm just relaxed. I'm not really bothered. There are so many things I haven't done, and those are the things I'm trying to do now. And yeah, you know, just taking it easy now. Let's put it this way, you know. Some people would want to just retire, probably get into something flashy and show their money and this and that. It's not worth it. I'll tell you that, it's not worth it. Right? It's absolutely not worth it. So, but yeah, guys, if there's anything else, and wait for it, please let me know what you meant by treasury. Tom Lee's Bitmain with ETH treasuries. Okay. Tom Lee, you know, I know the name, it's just not coming to me right now. I think it's Charlie Lee's brother. Okay, I think he's the brother of the founder of Litecoin, if I'm correct, right? That's Tom Lee. Just right now, it's not coming to me. It's been a while, right? But anyway, because I don't do the journalism part of it as much as I do analysis, right? Anyway, so yes, there are treasuries. There are treasuries out there. Ethereum has a large treasury itself, right? Now, some of these are privately owned. Some of them are owned by multi-signature wallets, basically. So nobody can really spend it. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Someone could rug. Someone could get hacked. You know, things could happen. But most of the time, there are plenty of protections out there, to be honest, that I don't really worry about that, to be honest. Right now, if Tom Lee has his own private key and no multi-sig wallet and he's fully authorized to take it out whenever, then that will dump the price a little bit. You know what I mean? But if he's benefiting from it, why would he? It's like staking. Think about it like staking, you know? So when there's a project out there and we go out there and we say, right, okay, I believe in this project, and I'm going to stake XYZ amount of funds into this. I'm going to buy XYZ amount of coins. I'm going to leave it there. When you stake it, you're getting a reward. It's a similar way. If he's put personal funds into a treasury, it's making the treasury look stronger, but I'm sure he's getting a benefit out of it. Would he really want to rug that? Do you know what I mean? And of course, when you look at some people like Tom Lee, I think it's Charlie Lee's brother, even Charlie Lee himself, but a lot of people, when you start looking at some of these OGs, right? I call them OGs, right? Regardless, whatever you call them, right? But they've been in the game a very long time. There are people out there who bought Bitcoin for pennies, bought Ethereum for pennies. Do you know what I mean? BNB for pennies. They've made millions and billions out of it already. Do you think they're really bothered? Not really, bro. You know, and sometimes, if you are registered as a business, right? So if you have a business or whatever, it's actually really good to spend, make expenses. It's really good because any losses that you have could be written off against any taxes you are due. So a lot of people don't understand this. So anyone who has a business or, you know, whatever kind of a registered entity, like in business, whatever, I recommend you guys that, you know, make expenses, buy crypto, leave it there. Doesn't matter. Let it go down. Doesn't matter. If it goes up, you pay your taxes. Of course, you don't pay anything on the initial. You only pay on the profits. If it goes down, well, then you just got lucky because whatever it goes down by, you don't need to pay taxes, and you could be tax exempt for a year, 2 year, whatever. And there are strategies out there. Of course, I'm not here for that, right? I'm not going to tell anyone about that. But yeah, I doubt there's going to be a rug on that. You know, the rugs that I see are usually just pump and dumps and these narrative rugs. That's what I'm seeing, you know. And as I said earlier on as well, when you start looking at influencers and whatnot, just be careful. Please be careful. You know, because if you're not careful and if you listen to everything they say and you're passionate about whatever they say and you just stick with them, remember, they're not pumping a coin for no good reason. I'm here trying to not pump anything. Think about it. I'm not telling you about some random coin out there. I'm not giving you that name. Why? Because there may be coins out there that I'm interested in, but I don't want to give you that name because I've already bought that. I've bought that. I've bought it for pennies, pounds, or whatever. I've bought that already. So if I tell you now, or tell 100 people or 1,000 people, I don't know, right? I don't have that large following. But if I tell a whole bunch of people, people go and start buying that coin. They pump. I see 10% in my pocket, right? I'm like, oh, my coin's gone up 10%, or maybe 2x or 3x. Damn, I just made a whole bunch of money. What am I going to do? I'm going to cash out. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to cash out. And when I cash out, what's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? I'm going to literally be dumping on you. So that's one of the reasons why, just be careful. That's what I'm saying. Nothing else, guys. Just be careful. Wait for it. Says long-term holders, especially for OGs, will dump heavy. Retail isn't pushing the cycle from my view. The treasury narrative is bait. It is a bait. 100% is a bait. If it's being advertised, remember, anything that's been advertised, hyped, marketed is a bait. There is no ifs and buts about that, right? There is no ifs and buts about that. And as you said, retail are not don't have the power to push anything right now. Retail have no power, but the retail, unfortunately, are the what do you want to call them? I don't know. The cattle for slaughter. That's what they are, right? For the very same reason that I just said to you. They're going to follow influencers and big groups and whatnot. They don't realize that the influencer that they're following with 100,000, 200,000, a million followers, he's pumping a particular coin after he's already bought it, right? Or he's being paid by that coin to promote it. And when I'm saying paid, by the way, a lot of people don't realize this. I'm not going to publish it, but I do have emails. I don't have many followers. I only have about 3,000 YouTube subscribers. I've been offered to make a video, and someone, just for one video, they're going to pay a couple of $1,000 of a particular asset. I'm thinking, hold on, why would you do that? And for example, I said, no, I don't want that. They even offered to pay in whatever currency I want. I'm thinking, why? You want me to talk about your coin? Okay, what's your coin about? Well, what does it do? Turns out it doesn't do anything. It's just absolute BS. But they want me to do that so that they can pump it out and get as many YouTubers to talk about the same thing, because one YouTuber talking about it really doesn't make any sense. But when 10 YouTubers or 100 YouTubers talk about the same thing, well, now you're getting to a level. And there are YouTubers out there who will demand $20,000, $30,000 per video. No joke. For a 10-minute video, they'll charge you $20,000. But the cryptocurrency project out there, they don't care. They don't care, because all they need is 20 people to invest, $1,000 each. Boom, they got their $20,000. They don't care. And there are so many people out there who would ape into certain things and actually lose money that way. So that's what it is, man. But yeah, I mean, OGs, one other thing I'll have to talk about OGs as well. I've noticed there are many, many Bitcoin OGs, especially. They haven't dumped. They haven't actually dumped. I know a lot of Bitcoin OGs have not dumped. I know a Bitcoin OG who drives a 8-year-old. So currently he's driving a car that's 8 years old. Toyota Prius. He's 8 years. He's had this car for 8 years. He bought it brand new. But 8-year-old Toyota Prius. And he's a freaking OG. Guy has at least, I would say, about 200, maybe 250, from my knowledge, Bitcoins. This guy's a freaking multi-millionaire. Normal life, normal house, normal. It hasn't changed anything. Nothing's changed about him. That's an OG. And a lot of the OGs don't. They're like, you know what, we're not interested. Yeah, if we need a little quick cash, well, why should I dump the whole lot? I just need to dump a little bit. So these guys, they have a different mindset. From what I know, all the OGs that I've seen, from my experience, most of them, I would say, right? I'm sure some of them who are not interested, they're just in it for the game. But most of the OGs that I've seen, they don't really dump, to be honest. They will buy it. These guys are hardcore, man. These are hardcore. Karinika says, I sometimes copy Future. If you feel comfortable with that, why not? If you see someone who's succeeding, there's no issues with that. I mean, that's not something that an individual's promoting to you. That's something you're able to access on an exchange, and you're able to see a particular person's trade, and you want to copy trade them. There's no harm in that. At least that person's not trying to influence you. Do you know what I mean? You're just copying what they're doing. You know, if they're going in, making money, you're making money on that particular trade as well. Great. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. But if someone's buying and selling, think about it. They're buying and selling. They're not holding something. Then you got to understand that. Of course, if you see a massive whale, right, who's bought something, right, at the beginning. So, for example, a fresh coin is about to launch. A whale's coming and put $1 million in, so you can see an actual transfer, whether he's bought it with Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever, USDT, whatever. He's bought $1 million worth of this particular coin, and it's not even launched yet. My whole strategy to that is buy that coin, follow the money, because that person's going to dump. So just follow the money, and when as soon as you see it pump, be the first to dump. You can dump it on him. That's the strategy. So, why don't you make some so we can copy you? I don't make some, so you can't copy me. There's a reason behind that, because I have a bunch of clients that I work with, and I actually manage their funds. So through my exchange and exchange APIs, basically, I manage other people's funds. Hence why, due to some NDAs and whatnot, I'm not actually allowed to publish anything. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so, and these are not like new clients or anything. I've had a whole bunch of clients from many years now, and I work with them very closely, and I manage their accounts. So most of the trades that you will see that I'm actually doing are actually a combined trade of mine and the clients as well. So I don't want to publicly publish those, if that makes sense. So yeah, a lot of people, like for example, my main exchanges, even my main exchange has an API, connects me to another side of the exchange. Let's put it this way. So I kind of do things slightly different. So it is what it is. But I won't say copy me. I'm not the best. I'm not the best, you know. I make money, I lose money. I've lost so much money on trades, you know. But of course, my gains have made it back up. But it's not always a win, you know. I'll lose 5 trades, I'll win 5 trades, and that's the reality. In trading, you must expect, like if you do 10 trades, expect to lose 7 trades out of 10. Expect to lose that, because if you're not expecting that, then you're not a good trader. A good trader will always say, you know what, I'm happy to lose 70%, because all I need to do is make that 30%, make it all up again, right? And that's a lot of the time that would happen. If you have that kind of a mindset, it's like, oh look, I'm going to lose more, right, of my initial, but on the way up I can actually make a lot more. That's how it is. And when you balance it out, yeah, you're always going to be in profit that way. So that's what it is. Mohammed says, sir, last question from my side. In your opinion, is it possible that crypto will disappear completely in the next few years? Where do you see the future of crypto? I don't think crypto would disappear completely, personally. But I do have an urge, and I do want crypto to be regulated, whether it's the government or whether it's the crypto communities itself. You know, maybe someone needs to step up and say, you know what, this is trash, this is trash. They shouldn't even be published. And what I mean by that, exchanges, right? Exchanges are in the best position whatsoever. You know, they're absolutely in the best position. They should be able to monitor who these people are and control the inflow of these coins, because a lot of these coins who are rugging people and scamming people are actually being launched on exchanges. They're having an ICO on an exchange, like whatever you want to call it, initial coin offering or whatever you want to call it, exchange launch or whatever. They're doing that. So a lot of these projects have to be stopped on that side. We don't need all of these things, and that's how we need to take down the 30, 40 million or 60 something million coins that we have. We need to reduce them back down to the actual genuine projects that we have. And that's, if we can do that, then a lot of people will be very rich. Of course, a lot of people may end up losing money because of that, but that's the reality. They're probably already lost. All of those projects that's pumped and dumped, 1 person, 2 person, maybe 10, 15 people have made money. Everybody else are just bag holders anyway. So why are we, filling up our coin market cap or whatever, that list? Those lists should just vanish. They shouldn't even exist on a list. So that's my opinion anyway, but would crypto disappear? I doubt it. There's always going to be a space for crypto, and I think crypto has proven itself that there's always going to be a space for crypto, and I'm not talking about institutions or anything like this. What you have to understand is there are certain things, functions that crypto allows anybody around the world when it comes to monetary systems to do, right? Which money can't do, because money has problem, right? Money has, one of the biggest problems it has is jurisdictions, right? So if USA says, Iran, you can't use my dollars, well, all of a sudden, Iran can't use the dollars. If USA says any money coming from Iran is null and void, well, it's null and void. So that is still something that's happening enough, especially when we get to the CBDC, there will be a lot more control, right? A lot more aggressive control. Now, even though cash money, paper money can actually be moved around, when it's CBDC, it can't be moved around anymore. So there will always be some sort of a space for crypto, especially I think it will be involved more in remittance and whatnot. You know, a lot of people like to go to the dark web and whatnot. That always exists, man. That dark web has existed before Bitcoin. I don't even know why people think about dark web. It's existed before Bitcoin, right? It's not something that just appeared because of Bitcoin, right? I mean, dark web is the freaking entire web, right? If you want to call that, but it's only dark because that's where the nefarious stuff happened. You know what I mean? What clear web is only what 5%, 10% of the entire internet, right? So clear web, what they call clear is gated, means that your internet service providers are allowing you access to go to a small region of the internet. That's the clear web. The dark web is the entire web. As far as I'm concerned, that's pretty much how it works, right? That's the internet. So yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a place for crypto, in my opinion, at least. I don't know. So, and yeah, I see crypto being used for multiple different things. If Bitcoin, for example, when I mentioned those 5 coins, if these coins are in the future become stabilized, so for example, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Binance, BNB, right, and let's say XRP as well, right, Stellar Lumens as well, by the way. So let's just say all of these coins, 6, 7 coins, whatever, they become stabilized price-wise. They don't have a big fluctuation. They're not volatile anymore, right? Because we're being protected. So if they lose their volatility, well, all of a sudden they become a standard of a currency, right? You know, yeah, they move 1 or 2%, but they don't go drastically like 10, 15, 20%. They don't do that. Well, now you can use that as a global treasury, right? As a global reserve, you can use that. So there's potential there. I'm telling you, there's potential there. You know, wait for it says BlackRock is wrecking in crazy fees on custody. I don't think they are really interested in adoption. They're not. They've never been. Why would BlackRock, a $10 trillion company, probably worth even more now, right, because of inflation, why would they be interested in some stupid crypto where they're only able to buy a few $1 billion worth, right? Okay, even if they buy $1 trillion worth, right, which they can't, right? Right? You see what I mean? There's not enough Bitcoin for them to buy. Why would they be interested? They're not. They're selling the paper because that's where the money is. And that's what I was telling you before as well. There are a lot of companies out there who are buying crypto, a small amount, custody, on paper. And they're selling the paper. That's the paper they're selling. So they're selling it, like, say, for example, Bitcoin currently worth $123,000, $24,000. They're selling that for $130,000 to someone else. And someone else doesn't care because that person, say it's a company or an individual who has money, saying, do you know what? Yeah, I'll buy 10 of those, right? So I'll buy $1.2 million worth, right? Just a rough number, of Bitcoin on paper. Now, you probably think, well, that paper is useless. Actually not, because that individual is a high net worth, and that paper is his expense. As I said about businesses, that's his expense. So now he can actually redeem that or get some tax exemptions or whatever because of that expense. So expenses are good. Do you know what I mean? So that's how it is. BlackRock is in the game. They understand that. You know, talking about that, BlackRock has a freaking lovely, there's a documentary, please search it on YouTube, BlackRock. They have a really good AI for the stock markets and trading. One of the AI is very advanced. But yeah, that's what they use. So they know, they can predict. Their AI can predict who's going to do well and who's not, or what's going to do well. They just have to feed the information, and they'll get the information thrown out to them. So they know, they know buying Bitcoin was good, but they don't really have to hold 100 Bitcoins to sell 100 Bitcoins. All they have to do is buy 10 Bitcoin, and so they can still sell 100 on paper. And that's what they're doing right now, in my opinion, at least. So yeah, the adoption, I don't think they're interested in that. Adam says, Salama, bro, long time. What are your thoughts about a reverse carry trade happening in Japan, and what effects could this do in crypto? Reverse carry trade, I'm not familiar with the term, bro, to be honest. I'm not familiar with the term. But look, if it is like, if, okay, let's put it this way, right? If there's something happening in Japan or happening in China or happening in America or United Kingdom or Europe, one thing you have to understand, crypto is 24/7 and it's on chain. If it is happening on chain, it's happening everywhere at the same time, right? So if someone is doing something on chain, it's visible. Everyone will see it. There will be complete panic. However, if they're doing something on a digital thing where it's not even on chain, it's just fake stuff like paper, right? Could it really bother? Maybe it might make the news, but I don't think it's going to bother the market. To be honest, I don't think it's going to bother the market. In fact, has been times where fake money, paper money, traded in crypto. So complete, just fake numbers, like stock markets are going to do it soon. Nasdaq's going to do it very soon. When they're going to be trading just the numbers, they actually help the price in the real world, which is hilarious, but it could happen. So, vice versa, they could actually also impact it. But I think the impact would be irrelevant, negative, as far as I'm understanding. I don't see anything other than that, basically. But as I said, I'm not familiar with the reverse carry trade term, to be honest. It's been a long time. So, yeah. But talking of something affecting crypto, remember in China, there used to be this massive property development company, a property that had nothing to do with crypto. That crashed the stock market. I think it was in 2020 or 2021. That crashed the stock market. And as soon as the stock market crashed, crypto also crashed. So there are things that, we call it a black swan. One thing leads to another. When panic sets in, people just panic and start dumping everything, because most people don't have a strategy. They just go with the flow, right? They just don't have the strategy. So sad reality. That's what it is, man. Okay, a reverse carry trade would have a huge impact on the international financial sector, stock exchanges, bonds, real estates, etc. Definitely. Just what I was just mentioning, that this property thing in China, what was it called? I can't remember what it was called, but this property giant in China impacted the stocks in globally impacted the stocks, right? I mean, think about it. The 2008 financial crisis, it was a global event, but where did it really happen? It didn't happen around the globe. It happened in USA, right? It happened in USA. So it was a US bank or whatever it was, financial institution, right? Lehman Brothers, which crashed the entire market. So similar way, you have to understand that, yes, if it's something significant enough, it could potentially impact everybody. Now, if it's in crypto, I don't really think so. Why? Because you have to understand how much of the global population are actually involved in crypto, right? And if institutions are also involved in crypto and they also know about this information, then they're already doing things to prevent it. That's how I look at it. Do you know what I mean? So, but in reality, yes, as you say, it could impact. And we've had situations with small hiccups, a small rumor, a whisper somewhere has come and affected crypto and everything else, right? But of course, for us guys who are interested in crypto, who are focused in crypto, we only see the crypto side of things. But in reality, it's happening everywhere. As you said, the financial sectors, the property, everything. Yes, it could impact everything. I mean, in the UK, we haven't had a property crash for a very long time, since 2008, and this is due. There's one due, so we don't know. A lot of people are very cautious about what they buy, how they buy, and this and that, and there's a massive crisis. So, and the crisis is now putting the prices up. But I think at some stage, if the crisis is over in the UK property sector, then there will be a big crash because people won't buy it, and the prices are going to start dumping. That will affect the entire market, especially if London is affected. And this is crazy, right? If London gets impacted, then the entire nation gets impacted. But so far, London's the only place that's been holding up, hence why everything else has been holding up. You see what I mean? And the way you got to look at it, if London loses 5%, then everything else is going to lose 10%. So similar way, depend on what they're working with. If they are messing with one coin, one particular coin, then yeah, I mean, it could potentially end up, and if it's a main coin like Bitcoin or Ethereum, it could potentially end up causing massive waves or ripples around the world, basically. So yeah, it's a hard reality, man. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It's a sad reality we have. So guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've just noticed it's been 1 hour 24 minutes. I've had a few calls come through as well, but yeah, 1 hour 24 minutes. I was originally intending to be here for only about 10-15 minutes, to be honest, right? I was just going to say hi, talk to you guys about a little thing, but anyway, look, I'm always happy. I know my live streams usually go quite long, but as I mentioned to you guys, we have a target for Bitcoin. It's a target that I've set months ago, right? In fact, my last video, I haven't even done a video since then. The last target, and I said, guys, the number I'm expecting is 133 to 137, based on the maths that I did months and months and months ago, maybe about 8-9 months ago. So we're heading towards there. Once we head there, then we see what we're going to do. And you know, if we take into, you know, if we understand the fact that, you know, 10% now is going to add a lot more, like 124k. If you add 10%, then all of a sudden you've just added $12,000. So the growth will look a lot faster. It's going to look a lot more, lot parabola, you know, very much like a parabola, but it's actually not. It's just moving naturally. A parabola would be, say, for example, if BTC today just jumps from 100k to 200k in one shot, then we got to panic, you know. But focus on the RSI, MACD, and all of that, and then we see where we go. So other than that, guys, I'm not going to make this video any longer. Thank you very much to everyone for coming to the show, all the questions and all the comments that you guys have given. As I said, I will read all of them, and I have read all of them, and I do appreciate all of you guys. If you do like this kind of content, believe me, I'm not here every single day. I'm not that guy. I don't come all the time, and I just realized that, you know, I've been in the game for 15 years. You know, it's hilarious, 15 years, but like a full decade of being a complete absolute believer of BTC and everything, and all the stuff that I've learned. Obviously, I've talked about here as well. And there may be many things that I haven't said, but I'm sure another time with more time we can actually talk about it. But I do appreciate all of you guys. Do smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you want. I do have a Discord, but it's not that active. Again, it's not active because I'm not there. You know what I mean? Because I'm taking a step back, just kind of relaxing, but I'm here. And of course, sometimes like Brother Roach and KR, they both kind of urged me today, right? One on WhatsApp and one on Discord, urged me today. They're like, bro, please do a live, right? Because it's been a while and they've been missing me as well. And they're like, look, we miss you. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of miss you guys too. So I said, you know what, I'll make myself free and I'll kind of come online today. So that's what I did. And so you can see there's a massive gap between my videos. So what I'm going to say to you guys, if you do subscribe, please do understand I'm not here all the time. I'm a very, very busy person. I work 7 days a week. I try my best to make some time. And sometimes I work very late as well, 14, 15, 16 nowadays. So yeah, it's hard. It's difficult, you know. But when I do come, if you're part of the community, if you're part of the group, at least you'll be notified that I'm about to go live or I've published a video. And I usually publish something if I feel it's relevant, apart from today, which wasn't really relevant, but I thought my brother's missing me, so why not? You know what I mean? And like KR, he's actually one of the first subscribers of this channel. So he's been with us since 2020. You know what I mean? So on this channel since 2020, he's been there. So is like a little brother. So loads of respects. And Roach, he's been with us for I think for a few years now. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the time we can't communicate because of the time schedules and this and that, and a lot of the guys are global as well. But we do our best. You know what I mean? We do our best. That's the most important thing, and I do my best. And as I said, if you feel that this type of content makes sense or you guys appreciate it, then do consider subscribing, smashing that like button, share with one another. Maybe the information will benefit other people. But other than that, I'm going to love you and leave you all. And I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you very much for coming to the show. Take care. Bye.